This is my angelfish breeding setup, and I really want to show you guys and kind of document I guess the journey, if you will, on this setup and how it's going to change over time, kind of where it's at now. And so I want to take this opportunity kind of early off into the process just to show you how the setup works, kind of what equipment I'm using and how I'm filtering and running this whole this 3-tank system, if you will. So let's take a step back. I just want to talk about the overall plan and each of the tanks that are involved, because right now we're looking at two 20-gallon longs. So these are long 30-inch tanks. And then we have a 40 breeder right there. And then upstairs is my display tank, which is a 75-gallon planted tank. And that's going to be where I end up probably getting a lot of my pairs from. And it's going to be where I put most of these angelfish that you're seeing right here. So a lot of the ones that are in these tanks that are essentially just growing out until I pair them off, they're all just going to end up going up there, and as soon as I get pairs, they're going to come back down into this tank on the left. And this is going to be where I do most of the principal breeding. So, well, I guess a lot of this hasn't been set up yet, and a lot of it isn't ready for breeding yet, but a lot of these tanks are all here with a purpose, and so I want to talk about that and just kind of explain the plan and explain how all this is running. So, like I already talked about, this 40 breeder here on the left is going to be where I put the pairs. This is where the angelfish pairs are going to go. And right now I'm guessing I'll be able to fit 2 pairs in here. So I'll probably divide the tank down the middle and I'll do a pair on either side of this tank. Now, the reason why I'm using a 40 breeder and not, let's say, like a 20 high or a couple 20 highs is because all of these tanks are in a pretty cold spot of my basement, and I really need I wanted to maximize the efficiency on heating the tanks, because I'm not heating up the space, I'm heating each tank. Each tank has a heater. So if I did 220 highs, I knew I was going to have 2 heaters in each of those, and so I thought by just doing 1 heater in one bigger tank and dividing it, I'm hoping that's going to make it a lot easier to heat in the end. I have no idea if that'll play any issues when it comes to spawning, having 2 pairs right next to each other. But right now, I'm going to try to make this work. So in here right now are a whole bunch of my juveniles. And these are some of the larger, small juveniles. I have 4 much larger angelfish in the 75 right now. But I've divided the rest of my small juveniles in between this tank right here and this tank right here. Right now, this tank is all bare. All of these tanks, I guess, have no substrate, and I'm trying to keep this as minimalistic as possible because these are purely meant to be functional. So I'm not trying to create a beautiful aquascape. It's all about being functional. So, like if you look in here, I have a whole bunch of pots. I have like coconut husks with plants on it, which you can, if it wants to focus, you can see that in the back. And then I've got some hornwort that's just kind of floating and stuck by the heater. And all that's just to provide additional filtration, because all of these tanks are runoff sponge filters. So this 40 breeder just has 1 right now, and it has an air stone over here. Again, basically we just saw that with the Java front on the coconut hut right there. But eventually I'm going to turn this into a sponge filter, because I knew when I have 2 pairs I wanted to have a sponge filter on each side. And then with each of these, there's another one of these fine sponge filters in here. So, and I'm sorry for the glare. It is pretty horrendous right now. So yeah, that's what's filtering the tanks. I'm hoping that's going to be enough. I really don't want to have to plug in any like hang-on back filters or anything else that's going to use up electricity. I want to keep it as efficient as possible and keep the price and the cost to run this down as much as I possibly can. So with these pots, this is all using, there is aqua soil and stuff in here. I still have some left, but this is fluvial stratum. The light is making that look awful. But this nutrient-rich substrate's been doing amazing at growing these plants, and they've been doing super, super good, which is great, because the more I grow these plants and the faster I grow it, the more nitrates I'm going to be pulling out, and the easier the water changes are going to be. That's kind of besides the point. So we'll keep running through these tanks. This 20 long here is going to be the primary grow out tank. This is going to be hopefully the last stop on the angelfish before I end up selling them. And if you look in here, I have a whole bunch. These are the smaller juveniles. So I've divided up the small ones that I've got into each of these tanks, and these are the smaller ones. So you can see a little bit of those. And there are some endlers in here. You can see one running along the back, and there's one in here. These endlers were just to test the system, and I was going to use them as dither fish, just in case the angelfish were super shy, which is no longer an issue, because if I hold my hand out here, these fish are just absolute gluttons. So no issues there. I've just kind of left them in there because, you know, they're fun. I have more than enough in my breeding colony. So this is going to be the primary grow out tank. This is where all the juveniles are going to go before they sell. So they'll be basically kind of like what I've got right here, except with a whole bunch more fish. Now I may need to double up filters in these. I will see if I end up doing that over time. And this last tank that's super dark. That is super dark. Let's brighten this up a little bit. There we go. Now you can actually see. So this tank over here is going to be where the eggs and like newly hatched fry are going to be. So when you see, at least what I've seen from a whole bunch of people, is when they have their eggs or their newly hatched fries, they'll usually put them in baskets, or they'll put them in trays that kind of run across the aquarium. And I thought these 20 longs would actually be great for that. So I can put a whole bunch of different trays or baskets or whatever I end up doing. I'll be able to put a whole bunch down the full length of this tank. And this is hopefully going to be where I end up breeding out, or I guess growing them all out in that stage. And it'll also help to regulate the temperature. So if you used a whole bunch of smaller tanks or like jars or whatever else, it would obviously I'd have some problems heating, because I'm not heating the space. I got to heat the tanks, heat the water. So by heating just this one tank, I'm hoping that'll make that a whole lot easier. Now in this tank as well, there is some live plants. And even with this lower light, these plants have been growing. I've had these tanks set up for, I guess, probably a little over a month and a half. And they've been doing really good. So I'm really happy with this. This tank has had basically no algae, whereas these other two tanks have been. So I'll show you guys that when we go back through. And especially when I talk about lighting. But right now you can kind of see there's a whole load of terrible glare. I'm really sorry about that. But yeah, this tank's pretty dimly lit, but I am still growing some plants in here. Again, I just want to suck out those nitrates so it's not an issue as much as possible to minimize the water changes. And in here, again, there's some more endlers. I did use this as a quarantine tank for a bit, so the filter's extra cycled. All of those fish went up into the 75, which I'll show you guys at a later date. Alright, so we'll go back up here, and I want to show you the air setup. So right here is we have a whole series of different valves. The lighting is horrendous. Let me just tear all this down. Because of the lights I'm using, which I'll show you in a second, I have to be a little bit more manual with my camera controls. Right here is, you can see the main air line that divides up into all these tanks. And all of these tanks are running off of, let's see if I can get it down without making a massive mess. I cannot. There we go. These are all run using a Fluval Q1, and this is a repurposed air filter. It's probably, if you're gonna buy one, I wouldn't buy this one. I'd definitely get a stronger one. But right now, this one filter's been doing a really good job of filtering all of these tanks. Like, they all are filtered really well. Like, good aeration on all these sponge filters and all the air stones, and it looks great. It's been doing really nice. For lighting, hold on, let me turn this overhead light on. This might help with this part. This is a old school Radeon. I can't remember which one it is. Let's see if I can, yeah, you can kind of see it. This is from my, back in the day when I used to have my saltwater tank, which I only made a couple videos on, but I've repurposed this light for this process. Ooh, here I'm pushing buttons and stuff on. I gotta stop doing that. So this one light's working all of these tanks right now, and it's been doing a really good job. I'm really impressed, especially with all this. It's meant for reef tanks, so it's got a super blue light if I want it to, so I kind of have to turn that down quite a bit. Makes filming difficult if you've ever filmed or try to take pictures of saltwater tanks and corals. It's all that blue light just makes everything just glow like crazy. Basically, you can see I'm getting pretty good light in these middle two tanks. This tank not so much, but it works. You know, I don't need an incredible amount of light. I don't need even spread in the lighting. I just need enough to grow plants, which brings me back down to the tanks. You can see here bits of algae all over the glass. You can see it really good in this one still. One of the problems I ran into about a month after I've had these set up is just insane amounts of algae growth, just all over the place, covering the glass. And it's gotten a lot better since I've added a blue eye lemon bristlenose pleco, who I'm looking for and who I cannot see. Nope. All right, I'm sure he's in there. Let's see. Oh, there he is. He's right underneath my nose. Oh my gosh, he's right underneath the heater. Yes, you can see her right now back underneath the heater, sorry. So she's done an amazing job of just cleaning this tank of algae, and it's just been really fun to see how efficient she has been at cleaning all this. And there's none in here. I did add a narite snail and some pest pond snails into or bladder snails, sorry, I guess these might be bladder snails. You can see one right here. So there's some of those in all of these tanks to help filter things, keep things clean. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with this whole setup. This is essentially as far as I've gotten. There's a lot more I need to add, so like the tank dividers. I got to start figuring out how I'm going to do like the small juveniles in the fry in that tank there. This lid bows incredibly, so I have this aquarium salt here kind of holding it down. And then I need to figure out how I'm going to do brine shrimp. I really want to try doing baby brine. I've seen some people breed these without using baby brine, but I really want to use this opportunity to try that. So that's going to be kind of things I'm looking forward to adding. And I think it's probably going to be several months before I'll have a whole lot else going on in this, because right now I'm just waiting on, I need my angelfish to grow up. I need them to pair off. And so, you know, it's going to be the waiting game now, just letting all these fish do their thing. And once that happens, we'll be able to really get this going. So thank you guys so much for watching and checking out this setup. And let me know if in the comments, if anyone who's bred angelfish has experience with this, give me tips, suggestions, things you would change, things to look out for. I really appreciate all the feedback I can get. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.